What brought me to Hawaii specifically was a job opportunity. At the time, I was working for a national nonprofit education agency called the New Teacher Center. We were able to get this very large federal grant, and with that, it allowed us to be able to open a Hawaii branch because that the center was based in California. So knowing that opportunity, I've been working with the center right out of college in back in 2009. So, it was really kind of an opportunity, and it was good, very timely. I have been with the center for a couple years and looking for something new and perhaps something challenging. So I applied for the position to help open up a local Honolulu-based new teacher center branch here. So I came to Honolulu back in 2012. Been here for almost 10 years now. So I'm really excited to continue to give back to the community and be able to do that through more projects.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of gutsy of you to, take that risk, right? To move out here on your own to set it up. I mean, do you have anything to fall back on if, it didn't work out? Would you have been able to go back to the mainland?
I think it was for sure risky, and at the time, I actually never been to Hawaii. I've heard of it as a tourist, destination. It's a beautiful place, and I think personally and also professionally, I was ready for a change. And luckily, I didn't have kids, and it was fairly easy for me to pack up with 2 bags and just move here. So my goal was the grant and that project for allowing me to be moving to this new job was a temporary position. And at that time it was grant funded. It was only going to be 2 to 3 years max. And I thought, why not take a chance? And this is my opportunity to do so. So I did that, and honestly, I think looking back, I would recommend for sure, if somebody's deciding to move to Hawaii, for example, definitely have a job lined up. So you're here and you have your kind of the job, kind of the community of your networks there supporting you. And ideally, you want to make sure you have a place lined up so you have a place to stay, or your home to go back to. I didn't, but at the same time, I think I was super fortunate because the coworkers at the time just welcomed me with open arms. And that first weekend when I arrived, they took me to Walmart, Ross, get bedding and figure out where I could go check out a couple of rental places and get my own space. So I think at that point I realized, wow, the people here in Hawaii are just so special, and that kind of have been very consistent throughout my career and my time here in Hawaii, and why is kind of a deciding factor for me to continue to stay in Hawaii. And that's kind of the major difference for having lived, having grown up in China and then also moved to LA in Southern California for high school, then working in Northern California, and then moving out here. So, I just felt that connection and the bond with the people here, with the kindness and true aloha here. So I've, decided to stay. And my thinking was, even though, let's say I didn't have another job lined up, I was going to make it work no matter what, because this is my happy place, and I'm really fortunate to have found it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is great to know, yeah, Hawaii is a great place to live in. Difficult, expensive, but if you can make it work, right, it's worth it. So, I want to talk a little bit about how you moved from, your previous job over to eWorld. But before we go there, just tell us, like, well, we all went through a whole year with the pandemic. I think in another 2 or 3 weeks from now, will have been exactly 1 year when, the pandemic first hit us and we had to go on a shutdown and so on. What would be a typical day at the office for you be like right now? I mean, how has it changed?
That's again a good question. I think the 2020 has been such a growth year, I think, for me personally, professionally, as well as eWorld as a company. So pandemic created this growth opportunity and a lot of projects in the pipeline too. And a lot of those opportunities actually is to be able to modernize some of the IT systems and support and give back to the community. So for me, a typical day now starts earlier and earlier. Before in the office, you can be in the office around 8 or something like that, and then you can pause and have a lunch break, and then you can leave at a reasonable hour at the office. And for the most part, you leave your job at the office. And for nowadays, I think it's becoming challenging because we're all working remotely. And I have, teams on the East Coast, teams that are in Singapore, India, offshore resources, and we have folks, local base, mainland, anywhere you call it. I think everyone is doing their best in terms of adjusting and being flexible. My days usually starting as early as sometimes 6:30 to get on calls with the East Coast team. And then not finishing until probably 6 or 7. So it's a lot of Zoom calls or Microsoft Teams calls all day, and a lot of communicating with the rest of the team through instant messaging, and phone and text, and utilizing technology. So at the same time, though, I do appreciate the fact that the flexibility that our company quickly pivoted and completely move, virtually within just, a day, a quick turnaround. And it has been proven very successful in terms of this working model. I think, again, for the sustainability of it in the long run, as Oahu get into hopefully tier 3, or, exactly, we can kind of have a hybrid model to have that work-life integration a little bit more.
So are you guys planning to go back to the office anytime soon, or no conversation about that?
I think there's definitely some planning on that. It's going to be a new structure. I think our executive management team is trying to figure out perhaps like a rotating hotel style, people would have stations and co-working space. And I think the pandemic gave us the opportunity and opened our perspectives too. Recognizing that, hey, we don't have to be sitting next to one another or face to face to have productive work. We can still be maybe in our pajamas and still be able to deliver work on time and on schedule, on scope. So I think that has been a really good lesson that 2020 has taught us.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, for us, we have always been a very distributed team. So, it just 2020 kind of gave us the reason to hunker down and prove that, being remote teams and being distributed can still work, right? Can you tell us a little bit more about your role at eWorld as its project manager? What does that actually mean? Awesome. And what are you working on these days? What's fun for you?
That last question is probably a little bit different than the first question, and I'll do my best to tackle it. So project manager role, I currently have a portfolio of a lot of projects that are for the state of Hawaii. Most of them are, again, like I mentioned, to modernize the existing systems. For example, we want to integrate probably more modernized AI or chatbot, newer technologies, and integrate that. And then, so that's really exciting and really fun for me. Our projects range between 5 to 7 kind of a developer team, and then sometimes can range to a larger team, maybe 10, 15 people. So that's kind of the broad range of a project manager. And your goal is, again, my background isn't in IT or isn't in technology. So my approach is, as a project manager, I am making sure our team, the business analyst, the solution architect, the clients, everyone is agreed upon with the same end goal in mind. So be it a project to deliver a software application, or if it's modernizing a system within a set timeline, I'm the person who is ultimately responsible and making sure the entire team is working together, collaborating through teamwork, communicating, and delivering the deliverables meeting our clients' expectation. So in a nutshell, I guess I'm mainly focused on the people part of things, And because I have my technical experts and, supporting me, and I want to make sure all of the individuals within the team is working well and working together, and with the end goal of, making sure our clients, are happy with meeting their expectations.
Yeah, so it was funny because I was talking to another project manager friend of mine, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I basically I'm like herding cats, kind of every day to day. I'm like the mother hen herding cats, bring everyone together.
Yeah, that's
Um,
pretty accurate.
so you haven't really answered my second question. So what's fun? Like, are you working on anything fun in terms of projects these days?
You mean the actual project itself is fun, or the kind of just overall, or?
It could be the experience, it could be the project, or maybe if I were to put it fulfilling,
Mm-mm.
if there could be a better word to frame it.
Yeah. So I think for I think this is my perspective for eWorld. We're locally based, and we figured out a really great strategy, and being able to partner with University of Hawaii, their computer science program, and kind of establish a pipeline of super talented graduates and also seniors, be able to intern with us, and then eventually they get full-time employment. So for me, that's really rewarding and fun, is being able to coach some of those new grads that are new to the professional career, and being able to overcome some of the challenges that they may face, because this is their first job out of college. You may not know how to deliver a presentation. Never done software development before. What are some etiquettes? What is public speaking? For me, is being able to look back and see how far they've grown, and getting the client's feedback and say, wow, I've seen so much growth in so and so, because of the team working so well together. And to me, that is just ultimate satisfaction. And then one other example was somebody had very like a lot of personal challenges in terms of public speaking. I think that's difficult for most people. It is not an easy thing to do. But at the end of the day, I think the couple of the folks that I've worked with ended up delivering presentations to clients with very polished presentations, and clients given really positive feedback and saying, wow, good job, you guys worked hard. So that, to me, it gives me chicken skin just as I'm talking about it. And it's so
Yeah.
rewarding to see somebody grow and continue to given that the consultation or kind of coaching and support.
So do you get to work with them for the entire semester? Or like how long is this internship duration?
For the most part, we get seniors. So seniors will stay with us for about a whole year.
Oh,
And
cool.
sometimes depending on, if they're a junior and depending on the courses that they have already completed, they can also intern with us in their junior year and then continue on assuming there's interest and also there's project needs, they can continue on their senior year too. So we've been very successful in that internship program. So if there are any folks out there who are interested, do let me know, so we can put you in touch with our with Steve at eWorld.
Cool. Okay, so if any interns out there listening in, or if you're looking for internship, let us know. I'm happy to also connect you with Kelly, so that you can take the conversation further. So, I want to kind of switch gears back to kind of talking about your transition, right? Because you were working when you first came to Hawaii, you weren't with eWorld, and then maybe what you can do is share with us how your background in education management, which was what got you that job that brought you here, how did that kind of lead you into what you're doing with eWorld today?
Yeah, thank you. So I think when I came here in Hawaii, and a lot of I would say the work experiences allow me to give me the skill set to be able for becoming a IT project manager today. For example, when I first moved here, one of my to-dos or mission was to set up an office, and being able to coordinate and have a beginning and end time frame to establish an office, and kind of work from the ground up, and it was similar to kind of a startup. And I did have a very small kind of exposure in terms of the previous organization had developed a custom app that's iPhone based and Android capable for working with teachers and school administrators. So through that development, I was kind of the user feedback, providing the user experience feedback, and then kind of sharing what my observations was. So at that point, I think it kind of drew my interest, and I thought, wow, I could be very good at this because I think I know what the customer is looking for. I know how to improve this app further. And then in 2017, at the time, the grant that previously my position was relying on has run out. We were working on another grant in progress. And then I think because the last position, I think I was ready for a change, and I thought, maybe there's something more out there that I'm not I don't know about. And I think the position also was very uncertain, dependent on a lot of changes that was happening as well, within the organization itself and also in the education landscape too. And then I thought, oh my gosh, maybe it's time for me to explore what's out there. So I was very lucky and fortunate, just through my connections and networks, kind of came across eWorld. And at the time, I talked to the executive management team, I interview folks, and I said, I have no IT background, but I'm here to learn, and here are my skills, and here are some examples of what I able to accomplish through good communication skills, through good relationship building skills, and that kind of specifically translates to working with clients. So I think it's maybe timing and a little bit of a luck, and also the eWorld management team kind of saw something in me, and I think in the resume thought, this person has the potential to grow further. And at that time, they have shared the project management professional PMP certificate and said, we highly recommend you to look into this and obtain this certificate because it's going to give you the foundation sort of knowledge and education there to help you to kickstart your IT project management career. And I thought, yes, I looked into it, I did my research, I was super excited, and I signed up for the local PMI chapter right away. I went to a lot of networking events. I looked into how can I take those project management courses, and I got my PMP 6 months later. So I think it was, again, a bit of a risk taking and maybe a little bit of a good timing and good luck. At the same time, I'm going to be completely honest and vulnerable because my first 5 months was me doubting myself, trying to think, oh my gosh, they're going to find out today I don't know what I'm doing. But at the end of the day, what really helped me was I kept a journal. Every week I would write down my small wins. So my small wins was, one example, oh, the developers invited me for lunch today. Or somebody said I had business acumen. So, and then, I got one step closer to my PMP certificate course. I learned earn value, whatever it is. I kind of kept a journal, and I kind of looked back and, from time to time, and it gave me some confidence. And I think by month 5 or month 6, I felt, oh my gosh, I get it now. And it's really, when folks are considering kind of a pivoting or transition to a new industry, definitely is risky and it's kind of scary and it's unknown, but at the same time, it's also very exciting. You're gonna face your imposter syndrome. You're gonna have a lot of questions and question yourself, but it's also doable. I think for me, being able to understand there are certificates such as PMP out there that actually helped me. It get me kind of the foot in the door.
You kind of had, so you were already hired with eWorld. even
Mhm.
before you completed your
Yeah.
PMP certification. So
Yeah.
how do you manage both work and study?
I'll be super honest. It was pretty brutal. Work long hours, and then I would go to my class, and it would be twice a week, 4-hour classes, and
And that was in person, right, at that time?
person. Yeah, so it's 2018, in-person classes in downtown. Um, I only took one night off, which was Friday night, that I didn't study after work. But every day of the week, I study for about 3-4 hours, probably till like midnight. And then all day Saturday, Sundays, I would study. So um, I think it's hard work. So whatever you put into it, the time and effort you put into it, you're gonna get it back. You know, you can pass in your first try. And to me, it was just I just really enjoy learning. I really thought like, wow, there's all this methodologies, on software development. There's all kinds of analysis and diagramming and all these different things out there that I've never been taught in college. I just didn't know. I wasn't familiar with project management as an industry or as, a career path. Now I know, and I felt like, wow, this is perfect. I love learning, even though it was no social life for those the duration, being what I was studying. But I think it was well worth it.
Hmm. I mean, you talked about the challenges, kind of making that transition, right? Imposter syndrome, trying to figure out what you were doing on a day-to-day basis.
Mhm.
Um, you know, what besides your journal, right? If someone had to go through that experience with, similar to yours, do you have any other tips or advice for these people?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, I think if somebody also is considering transitioning to a new industry, it doesn't even have to be IT. It just could be a career path or change. I would say do your homework, do your research. And then for myself, for example, I did my research. Pretty much every software kind of terms and methodology or the technology names, I would Google it right away. So I would get my own research. At the same time, I reach out to people because I try to be I try to be a good listener. I know that I'm not coming in to tell people what to do. I'm coming in to here to learn, and I want to know how to, maybe there are ways to improve the existing process. And I think I might, one of my strategies or just being approach is just being completely honest and say, I don't know this, or I don't know ABC. You have all these years of experience. Please, share, and please teach me. I'm here to learn and be a good listener and ask questions. I think I ask so many questions, especially in the beginning of my peers and my managers, as well as the developers and also clients. That was a good learning experience, right? Because when you're asking questions, you engage a conversation, then you're building relationships and you're communicating, and all of that working well together. So that would be my recommendation. And in addition to doing your own homework and research, definitely, communicate your needs and being able to be a good listener and ask questions.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, the ability to ask good questions is another art in itself, right? And also the ability to listen. I think not a lot of people pay attention to listening. You talked a little bit about networking events, right? And I'm not sure if they're ever going to come back in the near future, but maybe soon one day. Do you have any, kind of guidance on that? Maybe you can share a little bit of how you did it in terms of networking events that you mentioned, and going forward, like how do you think people can leverage virtual networking events or something to figure out their career transition?
Yeah. So when I first started, I think again back in 2017 when I first started at eWorld, I got in touch with the business analysts, local chapter, and then project managers, local chapter. So I just signed up for everything. if I see a webinar, if I see like a Pauhana event, free food, I sign up and I just show up. So it didn't really matter. Maybe some of the topics weren't exactly aligned with what I was doing at the time. To me, I just wanted some more exposure. I want to get myself kind of immersed in kind of well versed in the language that people speak, in the whole industry, and I want to just live in that, and then be able to meet people. So it's a little bit scary at times because you have to show up alone and you don't know anyone, but free food definitely helps a lot. And then in addition to that, what I've been doing, pre-COVID and also now is I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and I think LinkedIn is a great resource. And you and I connected over LinkedIn as well. I follow quite a bit of a lot of speakers that are super influential, and I kind of that's my go-to in terms of checking daily articles in the morning, and I comment and I look at TED Talks quite often. And then what I've been doing is attending webinars to learn from other experienced project managers. And this is offered through projectmanagement.com. So I think last year I watched several webinars of project managers talking about like SpaceX, launching that, or building a very complex construction, like being able to just to recognize so many projects out there, and there's so many other great people doing great work and all over the globe is pretty amazing. So so the primary resources I've been leaning on is projectmanagement.com, pmi.org, LinkedIn, and then utilizing the local chapters here, PMI Honolulu, for example.
Yeah. So I think, kind of showing up for those networking events, kind of scary, right? Like you said, you're going there alone, you're new to the industry. I
Yeah.
mean, did you do any preparation prior to going to these networking events?
I didn't. I think I may have voluntold another peer to come with, and say there's free food, and so I would have somebody there who is also a fellow PM or fellow BA, and that way we can kind of debrief about the event together, and maybe go to the next webinar together. I didn't do any prep. I think a lot of times you'd be surprised how others are feeling the same way. Everyone else is also coming there new, and they might be strangers as well. So I think just go in with an open heart, and nobody's really judging you. I think we're just very self-conscious in our own minds, worried about like, oh my gosh, I don't want to say something silly because I'm new to the industry. But I think if you ask questions and you're being authentic, and you're a good listener, people, I would say 100% of the time will actually give you really good feedback and say, here's how I can help you. Here's some tips for you, and here's some resources, and here's so and so. Let me connect you. So just actually be vulnerable, and it's okay to do that.
Mm-hmm. How large is the project manager community here? Is there like a formal, kind of chapter or?
Yeah, so there's a Honolulu chapter. On a yearly basis, the PMI Honolulu chapter put together a professional development event, and this year was completely virtual, so I attended only a partial of it virtually. I would say up to 1,000 members that are
Wow.
locally based in Hawaii, and it's continued to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm seeing in terms of the trend as well from LinkedIn is more and more people are pursuing, more certifications, and then being able to have your PMP. And because it's a well-known industry certificate, it actually can be easily translated from IT to other industries such as, construction or other sectors as well. So I think there's a lot of opportunity and growth there.
Mm-hmm. Besides the PMP certification, I mean, if there was someone looking to transition into project management, what other certifications you think they should explore?
I would think about the person's maybe professional career and actually look into the definition of a project and maybe draw on the, his or her own experience and say, okay, this is one example of I actually managed a project, but I didn't know I was doing it. I was
Mm,
already doing it just without the title of it. So that could be one scenario. And that could already be able to kind of line you up for the right job. And then also for if you're looking into transition, a good starting place would be, becoming a business analyst or project coordinator, even assistant role. If you haven't had some, experience working in an actual project in a professional experience, that those are great starting kind of to kick off your career there. And again, there are also business analysts local chapter here for a lot of networking and resource and webinars as well. So I think, again, most people, I would say, maybe fall into the project management role by accident. And then you realize, wow, there's a whole new industry of it, and it's really exciting. And to me, it kind of just makes sense. Like our lives, when you manage any type of events, those are all projects. So chances are the individuals who are looking to transitioning have already done so, in terms of experience managing a project. And that could be all very value lessons and good skill sets that you can communicate to your interviewer. So
mhm. That's a great point. And we actually got a question that is highly relevant to what you asked. It was sent to me directly, so I'm just going to read out from my side. Have you, I mean, or eWorld hired project managers with non-technical backgrounds? And what experiences, skill sets, or traits do you look for? I think you touched a little bit about that, but yeah.
yeah. So I'm a perfect example. I didn't come from computer science background. My master's in education. I have a teaching credential. The skill sets or qualities eWorld is looking for is good communication skills. For project management, 90% of the time you're communicating your clients, you're talking to your team, you're talking to your team leads, you're making sure everyone's working well together and collaborating and teamwork. And that's really, really important. So communication skills and being able to build that solid relationship, be it with your peers or be it with your colleagues and be it with the clients. So those two things, communication and relationship building, those are the two key qualities for eWorld we're looking for. And that's who I strongly believe in as well.
Mm-hmm. How about experiences? Well, I guess it doesn't really matter. Okay, there was another question from Vince. Vince, we'll get back to your question. Um, let's see. I want to talk a little bit about, kind of cross-cultural project management, and also, managing teams across different time zones, organizations, right?
Mhm, mhm.
How is it? What's a secret to that? Like, what what is the
Secret.
biggest team you have managed so far?
Um, the secret is there's no secret. You have to I would say understand the expectations, understand the cultural differences. For example, one of the Singapore resources, they had also Chinese New Year over there, and it's a national holiday, so they I think usually they would have like a week off or something, so the person's taking time off. I would say communicating early and kind of set up your norms, your team norms, and say, here's the cadence and here's the frequency of how it within the team, um, me as a PM, and then their senior lead or BA, and then the rest of the team would all agree on to be as the best communication. Is it email? Is it text? Is it through Teams, through a chat? Whatever it is, agreed upon it prior. So then when personal emergencies happen, you have to take off, holidays or whatever, time zone differences, you can't make to a meeting for whatever reason, there is already a trust, a bond that it's okay. Nothing is going to fall through the cracks. Um, and I would, in addition to building upon that trust is, I think for, if you're the project manager role, being able to reach out to folks that are maybe offshore and also East Coast, and show your support, show that you're caring and you're not just going through your day and taking things by granted. The reason why I wake up and do my 6 a.m. calls is because I want to have the opportunity to connect with the East Coast folks, because they're connecting with us past their bedtime. And we really appreciate that. And we're doing that because we want to get the work done. At the flip side, I think, and now talking out loud as a reminder, I want to make sure I am doing the same for them. Be it, and maybe sometime we do a late night deploy. It could be like 2 a.m., 1 a.m., midnight, crazy hours. But you know what? When people show up and they see you're supported, and it's not just one person, I think they really appreciate that, and that goes a long way. And then just from we primarily use Teams with our clients, and also internal communication. It takes 1 minute to send one message, just check in and say, hey, how are you doing? Is there anything I can help you? Let me know if you have any questions. How are things going? And be able to kind of stay in touch with folks, especially those are far away, and then in multiple time zones. So making that effort is probably the most important thing.
Yeah, showing up and being there, right? I guess, showing support. Yeah, that's a great point. I think Vince's question kind of rests along that as well. He's asking, what software management tool does Kelly use to coordinate and collaborate with her team?
Software tool. So we use primarily quite a bit of reliant on Jira. So using Jira to track tickets and tracking tasks. And there's a way of seeing like who is assigned with what, and then there's automatic email notification right away. And then you can kind of, depending on the setting of it, you can see the progression or the timeline, burn rate, etc. So we're primarily relying on that. And then organizationally, we utilize Microsoft Outlook, Calendar, OneNote, and then also Teams quite a bit. So I hope that answers your question. And then for any research or analysis, building out Gantt charts or timelines, I rely on Lucidchart quite a bit. It has been very efficient and a very, very good tool and easy to use. And it's browser-based browser-based, because we don't have the Mac versus Windows challenge there. So.
Cool. And then we have another 2 questions that came in, and they're kind of similar. So Sarah's asking, how do you engage with your team remotely to maintain a good company culture, right? And along that note, Dean is asking, any tips on building rapport when it just seems so easy to focus on work?
That it's hard. Like I think there's just really no secret. It takes time. It takes trust between all the team members. It takes everyone to maybe make one extra step of effort. If I'm making one step effort, and then your peers and everyone within your team, everyone's taking one step further, and be one step further in terms of being open and being honest and being vulnerable with each other, I think we're all human beings. We'll all understand the challenges that we face. I guess one specific example is we have our daily status calls with the team. And sometimes I think I have to take a step back too, to say, let's not go right into the business of talking about tasks and what to do and what's on schedule, what's behind schedule. Let's talk about how did the weekend go. So we would kind of establish, and in one of my teams on Mondays, we actually spent about 20-minute roundtable to talk about the weekend and talk about like what you did over the weekend. Did you go hiking? Did you try takeout somewhere? Did you did your mom cut your hair? Did you put some new video games? We actually intentionally build that time every Monday morning for the team to have that more structured water cooler reflection, chit chat. So I think that has been really helpful. It's also just like one way of still keeping your kind of working relationship with your colleagues live, to hear that, oh wow, so and so went to the Christmas lights, back in Aloha Stadium, and they had to wait in line so long, so maybe I shouldn't go. Like it kind of engage the team as a community and be able to share and bond a little bit. And again, for that one particular example, everyone's based in Hawaii, so it's a little bit easier to connect. I can imagine for the cross-functional teams that are based on different places, it's a little bit harder to find that commonality. Another example that we've done was also having like a Pauhana hour. Like it would just be an open, maybe half an hour or an hour during lunch, or it could be on a Friday afternoon. Have a open slot open, and for folks to go in and maybe chit chat or play a game or whatever it is. Just have that door open. So maybe that could be another opportunity to explore too, in terms of building rapport.
And do you have those Pauhana hours as more like structured, or is it more free flow and people just come in and out kind of thing?
I did trial and error, and I'll be honest, I started with structuring it. I said, okay, let's do this every 3 weeks, and so is going to facilitate this. Let's come up with an agenda. And then it was really tiring and really so now they do it on their own. So it's more self-organized and self-motivated. We have leaders among the team who are naturally very just love to kind of engage with others off work. And that's, I think, the one part I really enjoy working with eWorld is our teams are really good people. Not only that, we work with everyone all day every day. We still want to spend time with folks outside of work. So I would see people just doing like Pauhana, like video gaming session, or just music or whatever it is, just chit chat. So that has been probably self-organized is more the organic way versus me trying to say let's do a Pauhana. But I think the idea it did eventually kind of evolve over time. So
So I think this also kind of ties in really nicely, and you talked a little bit about it, but Sarah's second question, how do you build trust remotely, right? So I think these are opportunities to bond, which builds trust, but are there other things you do that within your own project management kind of work scope to build this trust?
So again, I think there's no secret, but really hard work and being able to think and plan and anticipate. So as a new team member that's joining the team or the existing project which is already in flight, it is, I think, the PM's responsibility to reach out to the new individual and say, hey, this is who I am. Here, here's a little bit about me. I want to know you. Let's have a conversation. And I want to establish this communication channel so that you can come to me with all of your questions, any concerns, or even just saying hello or anytime. So let them know you're here for them. And I think that kind of it's going to help establish a good relationship there, and continue that. And it doesn't have to be a structured one-on-one on a weekly basis. I think more of my one-on-ones with my colleagues, and especially new hires, has been more ad hoc of like, hey, how are you doing? Do you have any questions? If you're stuck on something, let's just get on a call. And maybe let's do some screen share. So I think that more frequent communication is better, because that's gonna reassure you as a PM that, hey, they're working on something and maybe they have questions for you, or maybe they're doing well. So and then one more comment I want to add is, with the pandemic, I think one of my biggest fears is somebody who's MIA. We're excited, we're expected to be online in this day and age and be able to be available, and because that's our only way, or the most important way to communicate and stay connected. You don't want any surprises as a PM. You want to make sure where everyone is, and I'm not doing it in a micromanagement way, but I do need to know if you're, supposed to attend a meeting. Yes, you're there, but if you're not there, then I need to know the reason prior as well. So clear communication and setting that expectation up front.
And having kind of accountability measures as well, right?
Yeah,
In place.
exactly. Yeah.
It's great. So continue sending your questions in and we will address them as we go along. I think one thing that I'm also interested in understanding is kind of the trends in project management. Like, how do you continue upping your game, right? And what do you look to keep informed about, trends in project management?
That's a good question. I think for if you're PMP certified, the Project Management Institute, you're required to renew your or stay on top of your certificate and through continued education. So I actually just fulfill my credits. You're within the 3-year period of your certificate, you're supposed to have 60 credits of, including giving back to the community, attending webinars, attending professional development events, for example. So that's kind of how I stay on trend, and I sign up for the newsletters, for example, a lot of webinars from folks that are, again, across the globe in so many different project management roles. They could be in New Zealand or Australia and India or England, whatever. And there are folks that are doing webinars of their own projects, or they're talking about maybe how to manage remote work teams in the pandemic situation in New Zealand. I don't know. I've seen those newsletters come in my inbox, and I do click and I do go check them out. And I have also attended have seen the recordings of it, and some of them, when I watched it, I found something really interesting. I can have some takeaways that I could use as well. So there's a lot of knowledge out there, and I think that there are so many people on the same boat too. They might be 20 years in for in the project management sector, and maybe somebody who's new to exploring it. So both sides, I think, each from each other, whether you're not so many years of experience versus more experience, there are ways to learn from each other. So I think there's just kind of abundance of resources out there, if you know where to look. And one of the good resources I rely on is the projectmanagement.com. There's a lot of webinars out there.
Do you have a favorite project management tool? I know you mentioned some, but for like companies that are not super savvy and small, medium companies, would there be a platform that you would recommend?
Yeah, so one of the actual project management tool that I used was Smartsheet, and that was, again, browser based, and it was, at the time, we were using G Suite, and then you can kind of incorporate it as part of the app there. It was really easy to use, and I wasn't even a project manager title per se at that time, and I was able to use it. So again, there are so many templates out there. And then most likely for folks who are transitioning into the project management role, I would also recommend you to ask and find out if there are any peer groups within the company in project management. Are there other project managers that you can lean on, or and be of a mentor or be of a guidance, and maybe share some of their secret sauce or secret whatever templates that they have used and have been successful, and here's your kind of a learning and somebody who can support you, and that, I think that will be a really supportive environment to be transitioning in.
Mm-hmm. So, before we wrap up, I'm just going to ask two more questions from me, and I welcome any more questions from the audience. Like you mentioned, I remember us connecting because over LinkedIn, right? And then I think it was because I was like, hey, I don't really know you, but I think you'll be good fit for a speaker opportunity with Nepris, which is a virtual learning platform, right? And I know you spoke for them twice already, and it seems like giving back is very important for you, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about that? Like,
giving back, I think, like I mentioned, I think especially being in Hawaii, there are so many kind people. Everyone I met have been so kind and generous and just showing that aloha spirit and welcoming the newcomer or transplant here and showing me the ropes and understanding the culture, respecting the culture here. I want to do the same, and I want to do the same for new grads or interns. I want to do the same for folks maybe not 10 years into their career. Maybe they're looking for a transition from education to IT, one example, or some kind of transition or some kind of crossroads or challenge you're facing. Maybe you're not feeling empowered in your existing position. I've been there. So I'm open to share my advice and maybe us talking story a little bit. You can find something interesting. So I think that for me, being successful in my role, I did not do it alone, and there's no way that you're alone in this. I also communicate and kind of connect with my fellow wise women. I have my colleagues from past work and professors or teachers that I've stayed in touch from college and also graduate school that I go to seek advice, and I call them my wise women. And I would think that, if you're a woman looking to transition in tech, find your wise women group and rely on them, lean on them for advice, ask questions. When you ask questions, people are so excited to share their experience and willing to give. So
Okay, it's great. Okay, still no questions coming in, so I'll ask my other question. PMP, right? Is it really necessary? I know we talked a lot about it during this session, but for someone going into, assuming someone who is exploring the idea of project management, would you recommend them doing PMP even before they get the position, or work on it after they do it, after they get their secure one?
right. So I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's necessary because it really depends on your experience. What are you bringing into the table? Do you have prior work experience already demonstrating working and leading a project in a team? And what is the size of that project, in terms of the budget and the scope, and what is the size of that team? So if you have that experience already demonstrated, the PMP is the icing on the cake. It's going to enhance your portfolio. It's going to enhance your resume. At the same time, I would say, because my professional experience, I was about 8 to 9 years in. For me, it was a good investment. It was a good timing. And I would say maybe somebody who's like 20 or 30 years in, you already have all these plethora of experiences. You may not need to have a certificate to prove that you have experience. I think probably between 8 to 10 years is maybe a sweet spot, because that way you're not fresh out of college. You have accumulated quite a bit of work experience, perhaps exactly being the leader, leading a project team, and being able to develop your communication skills, develop your relationship building skills over that time frame. And then by the time you're obtaining or pursuing your PMP, it's going to reassure you that, hey, this is confirming that this is the right path and this is a great certificate for you. So I think it depends on the person and depends on what they're looking for. It's not a shortcut, I would say. I think definitely if you're fresh out of college or very recent, a newer professional, timing might not be even, it might be too soon even, because you don't really have enough work experience to kind of qualify for or sit in for the PMP yet. And I think getting that actual work experience first and foremost, especially for newer grads, is very, very important.
Okay, so I guess for those who are thinking of going to project management, right, figure out all these different factors and whether you need to take the PMP. So, as a tradition, before we close out the session, I'm going to ask the final question I ask every single, interviewee on this program. Give us one word you would like to leave the audience with today and why.
Um, there's so many. I mean, I mentioned so many good qualities. I one thing that comes to mind, and I mentioned good listening skills, I mentioned communication, I mentioned relationships, but putting all of that aside, I think bottom line is, I would say humble. Stay humble. There's always going to be people who are more experienced than you, that's going to walk in with so many different certificates, PMP, MBA, and whatever, PGP, Agile, any kind of certificate you name of. There's always going to be people who are more knowledgeable, more experienced, more senior than you. And then I think the ability to stay humble and say, oh wow, this is great. Let's work together. Let me learn from you. Let me practice my good listening skills. I think that quality of staying humble kind of tied everything in together. And the attitude of continued learner, and not letting things go over your head, because when you have a manager title, it is very important because you have responsibilities, but at the same time, I think your attitude in terms of being able to stay humble, staying true to the clients, that's gonna ultimately, I think, serve well in your career.
Awesome. That's a great one. Thank you so much, Kelly, for taking the time to speak with us today. And, of course, I wish you all the best in your future projects, your endeavors, and, thank you for always giving back to the community here in Hawaii. So for attendees, this session has been recorded and we will share it with you. So keep a lookout in your inboxes. And if you enjoyed the session today, we have another one coming up next month with Summer Rankin. She's awesome, brilliant, and she's the senior lead data scientist at Booz Allen Hamilton. So the link to RSVP is in the chat box, and feel free to RSVP, and we will see you next month at our next Women in Tech session. Again, thank you so much, Kelly, and I'll catch up with you later.
Yeah, thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.